So 6 years ago, when COVID hit, my wife and I lived across the river in Brooklyn. We ran a company called Frequency, where we explored the concept of human connection. We had 360 audiovisual domes, which we built together with two amazing founders, one of which is Dr. Megan Poe, who taught love here in NYU, a professor for love. Anyway, COVID hit, we couldn't bring people together anymore, and we realized that it's time to leave the city, and we ended up catching the last flight from New York to LA. And once we got to LA, I had a strong feeling that we need to go into the desert. And we drove into Joshua Tree, and we just settled there for a while. And having spent close to 15 years before that working with various different elders, being initiated into different spiritual paths, sharing their stories, leading retreats, activities with them, we started hearing this reoccurring message from the elders. And by elders, I mean, imagine a chief in the Amazon, a Sufi sheikh in Konya, Turkey, an Indian guru, a rabbi. And they're all sharing the same message, which was that the time is now. Almost like implying into some sort of like a shift in consciousness that was happening. And I always say that regardless of where you are on the seeking spectrum, I think by 2026 we all feel like we are part of this very overwhelming wave of that something is shifting. And with that, we kind of started to recognize that there was an invitation from the elders to open up and share their stories and their teachings for the first time in history. Having our company shut down with no retreats, no shows. My wife is an amazing cellist. Out there in the desert, we kind of really could have gone anywhere and nowhere. And it was getting warm or hot. It was already June. And we said, okay, we need to, what's our next step from here? And we did what any, responsible grown-up would do. We just took a hero dose of mushroom. And we walked into the desert. It was a Shabbat evening, Friday night, full moon. It's very auspicious. And we kind of dropped into meditation. And we asked, how can we show up in service in what felt like a time of great need? And in that sitting, there was a voice that spoke. It was a she. And she said, you need to meet people where they are. And I was surprised by the voice, and I kind of pushed back. I said, what do you mean, where people are at? And she said, people are at home, and they're looking at their screens. And I just got hit with this vision. I saw my Sufi teacher, and I just realized that everything that we've been building up until that moment, the retreats, the activities. I worked for Burning Man for many years, building Frequency here in New York, was to an extent sharing similar messages, but within the echo chamber. And we kind of felt into what if we could actually break down the barrier and bring those messages of the elders into where people actually spend their time, sadly, in their screens. So that was 6 years ago. We've just wrapped the first season for Seekers. We've shot the first six journeys. But, a very long story of how this all came about. But what I would like to do is to show you guys the trailer for season 1. And then I'll share more a bit about how we go about it and how we bring this to the world together, hopefully.
We are less than 48 hours away from going very far and sit down with one of the last remaining wisdom keepers on Earth.
I received some really bad news. You will not get hired, you will get fired, and that was the first time I got scared.
Su espíritu está un poco alejado con su cuerpo, pero ahora le vamos a conectar.
Just open your heart with full of love and full of curiosity.
These fears come from the shadow self.
I'm scared to open up.
Where's my African and my American? It doesn't exist.
It wasn't the sobering up part that was hard for me. It was finding out who I am and my purpose.
I can't do this again for 12 hours. This is insane.
These all come from the human heart.
I have every right to feel doubt.
Take some deep breaths.
Getting to know yourself in that deep way can be life-changing.
That's the risk you take, being a person of the heart. Now it is up to you.
Thank you. You guys are one of the first people to actually watch this trailer. So 6 years in the making, $4.5 million, grew completely out of proportions. We've done it completely independently. We're doing everything in partnership with the elders. So we say that we don't share their stories. We merely create a container in which they get to share their own stories in their own words, which is a very kind of upside down approach, I think, to filmmaking, which is why I believe is part of the reason for why we get the access that we get. Almost everything that we've shot in terms of rituals and ceremonies, the first time in recorded history that they allow a film crew into those sacred spaces. On top of it, and to make things more complicated, we've tried to dance with Hollywood and the kind of the streaming mechanism for a while, and we kind of continuously either failed or realized that it was that it would compromise some of the integrity that was required to do such a job. The last response we got from the head of acquisition, I wouldn't mention the name, of a very big player in the field. She wrote, "This is beautiful, very well produced. My only mandate is to buy long existing IPs with proven following, like Keeping Up with the Kardashians." And that's when we realized that we have to take it alone to the market. On top of what we've shot, we've already completed shooting about 100 additional hours of teaching satsangs, practices, meditations with the world greatest. I want to share, there's a lot that I can share. Obviously, we can spend here days just talking about the stories that happen. I wanted to focus on just 3 characters out of the many we've worked with. The woman, this amazing woman here is called Rupiah, grandmother Rupiah. She sits in a sacred mountain range in Zimbabwe called Chimanimani. She's part of a clan called Chikukwa. She's a healer. She served 3 Mambos in her community. Mambo is a king. She served 3 kings, 3 generations of king. One of the greatest healers in the world. This community works with water spirits, which they call mermaids. And the way they get initiated is that you'll be recognized by the spirit as someone who have like some spiritual potentiality. And as you go next to a water source, be it a spring or a river in her case, they get abducted. That's the mythology. They get abducted. And then they disappear. And they realize that she disappeared because they found her baby. She went to do the laundry by the river, and they found her baby. And she showed up 2 days later. And they received the information from spirit and then go back into the community in service. The only way that they can go back is that if their family is not mourning or they're not freaking out too much for that person to disappear. Because if they do, they might not return. So she luckily returned. The episode we shot with her just won the Ray of Light Award in Ibiza 2 weekends ago, and last week she passed away. It's a huge loss. She never saw her episode, which breaks my heart. We paid for a burial and supported it, and now they're playing her episode in repeat in the cultural center. There are like thousands of people from that part of the world that are mourning her loss. A huge loss for humanity. Luckily, we have her story kept, and we are ready to share it. Mukatsawa Oshigwa, from a tribe called the Zapara Nation in Ecuador. She was the matriarch of this amazing community that we discovered, a village of 50 people. The communities already went extinct. They went down from 200,000 of them that lived in the beginning of the 20th century to 650 that are left in between Ecuador and Peru. Incredible woman, medicine woman, very inspirational and brave and kind of very fierce protector of the forest. I have her spear in my living room. She was one of the last remaining 3 people to speak the Zapara language. She passed away a few months ago. We have the only documentation, cinematic documentation of her singing and speaking in her language. And lastly, Effendi Jalaluddin Loras, descendant of Rumi. He was born in the room juxtaposed to Rumi's grave. He's the son of Suleiman Dede, was the head sheikh of Konya. Konya is where the Mevlevi Sufi order is based. He's the last elder. I share his story here for 2 reasons. The first is that he was, when I was in the desert, I saw him, I saw his image, and he was the first elder to give an official blessing to the project, and just about 3 months before shooting, he passed away. So we already budgeted and planned, and that's the moment when we realized that we're not waiting on Hollywood anymore, and we just went on and took the independent route. And the second reason I wanted to show him here in the context of this amazing gathering is that I asked him in our last interview, I did make 2 interviews with him, and in our last interview, I asked him, what does it mean to be spiritual? You know, such an obscure word. And he thought about it for a moment and just like smiled to the camera and he said, be yourself. And it kind of became our mantra, and my mantra personally, because I think that once we are enabling ourselves to be ourselves, it's really where we drop our need to conflict and to argue and come against each other. And I think if anything, this meant for me symbolizes our ability, accepting me, a Jewish boy from Jerusalem, officially into his order, initiating men and women together. We hold hands together, men and women, in ceremonies. Yeah, so very grateful to be here, and thank you. And I'm here if anybody want to talk or engage or whatnot. Thank you.